So thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to present about our work in Kakuma and Kalobeyei refugee camps in northern Kenya. I'll be focusing on developing sustainable energy value chains in displacement contexts, specifically focusing on our market-based energy access project, which we've been implementing in Kakuma and Kalobeyei since 2017, actually. Just a quick background is on the agenda. I'll briefly introduce the project and some background information on the energy access situation in Kakuma and Kalobeyei. Then provide you with an overview of the pilot phase of the market-based energy access project, and then look at how we're scaling this up and some findings from a business survey that we did in the camps earlier this year. So just very quickly, the project that we're running in Kakuma and Kalobeyei is funded by the Energizing Development Program, which is a multi-donor funded program focusing on energy access to rural and remote communities. And under that program, SNV supports GIZ in Kenya to implement two components. One is Kenya-wide focusing on productive use, but also some focus on cook stoves. But the main component that is of most interest here today is End of Refugees, a project that, as I said, we've been implementing since 2017 in Kakuma and Kalobeyei, focusing on the promotion of solar systems and higher tier cook stoves for households. And that includes both the refugee community and the host community as well. In addition, we've scaled up the project to also cover micro businesses and social institutions recently. Some background on the camp: it's located in Turkana County, northern Kenya, which is the poorest county within Kenya. The camp was established in 1992. The current population is about 192,000 refugees, translating to about 38,000 households. And we're looking at countries of origin, including Somalia, South Sudan, Ethiopia, DRC, Burundi, and some other countries around the region. So very briefly, just some background on the electricity situation in the camps. Turkana County as a whole does not have grid access to the national grid. And even though there is a 300 megawatt onshore wind farm that was commissioned a couple of years ago, but that electricity feeds directly into the national grid through to the demand centers in the south. The camps itself, they have no formal electricity access as such. There is a hybrid solar diesel mini grid which was built through NDEF funding in Kalobeyei. But the camps in Kakuma are not connected, and not everybody in Kalobeyei is connected to this mini grid either. Instead, what is happening in the Kakuma camps is that even though solar is increasing as a use, especially for lighting, the use of diesel generators and informal diesel mini grids is still very common. Now, the challenge with that is that because these mini grids are very informal, they're basically one generator connecting wires to households or businesses surrounding the generator, means that the in-house wiring and general overhead connections are substandard and often unsafe. For lighting, firewood is still the dominant source in households in the county, followed by kerosene. There is an increasing penetration of solar lanterns, especially among refugees, also as a result of donation programs. But there is also, with that, an increasing risk of e-waste in the area. Very quickly on the cooking side.
Hi, Susanne.
Yes.
The slides are not moving. So I think we've missed the previous one. I think we're still on the background.
We are on slide 3 right now. So if you could go to the next slide.
I'm on slide 5 on my screen. Wait 1 moment. Oh, hang on. I might have pressed something. Oh my goodness. I don't know what I did.
Let me switch back to my screen, and in that time you can close the presentation, open it again.
Please. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. So if you could now start, close your presentation, I'll send you the request to share again. So shall I send the request?
Yes, please. All right, you can now see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, I was moving the little communications box around, so I think I might have pressed the button by accident. My apologies. Okay, so yes, I've told you about the some background information on electricity access.
Sorry.
On the yes,
Sorry.
it's still paused. This is
Yeah,
so bizarre.
pause. I only can see the first slide, developing sustainable energy value chain.
Oh. 1 second.
Or I can share the slide from my end, and we can continue like that.
Yes. Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do. Oh wait, yeah. Is it working now? Can you see my screen now?
We still see your screen, but we see the presentation mode. It's not in full screen mode.
Now?
And now we see slide 5. Yes, now it's moving.
Good. Okay. Let's continue. I'll be quick. I won't spend too much time on the clean cooking side because there's limited productive use aspects to this with regard to clean cooking. But yeah, the main use of fuel for cooking is indeed still firewood, a business that is worth almost $1 million a year in terms of procurement, and there is definitely a lack of alternative fuels for the local fuel supply there. But let me now speed up a little bit. Apologies for this delay. What we're against this background, what we have been doing with the Market-Based Energy Access Project is to focus on 3 areas that we wanted to improve on in the camp to diversify energy access solutions. One is around solar, supporting basically private sector companies to come into the camp to enhance the last mile distribution channels for solar products, and also to increase awareness of high quality solar products. So the target here was to promote the sales of over 7,000 solar lanterns and home systems. On the cook stove side, again, awareness creation was a key objective in the pilot phase. In addition to supporting distributors of cleaner cook stoves, again, to come into the camp to develop their distribution channels and to sell stoves to the refugees as well as the host community. In addition, a third area was to look at fuels and introduce a broader range of alternative fuels, such as, for example, bioethanol and briquettes. The pilot phase ran from late 2017 to late 2019. We managed with private sector companies to sell almost 9,000 clean energy products throughout that period. 60% of those sales did go to the host community, but we did observe towards the end of the project an uptake, especially on the solar product side among the refugee community. Very briefly on the lessons learned from this initial pilot phase, what we found was that stakeholder engagement was absolutely key, and stakeholder engagement did not just mean working with UNHCR, WFP, and the humanitarian organizations, but also with the local community leaders, engaging per camp with the local leaders to allow for market activation exercises to be run, clean cooking demonstrations, promotions of the solar products, and also working with the local NGOs, such as, for example, Locado, who are in charge of the field procurement for firewood. that really helped to shift also the perception of the different players in the camp to allow for the entry of private sector companies to introduce their products to the local market. Close coordination with the partner organizations was also key. For example, working in parallel to the Moving Energy Initiative project, which was running in the camp in parallel to while we were introducing the MVEA project, and sort of also then following on some of their activities. For example, the company B-Box that was being supported by Moving Energy Initiative is now a beneficiary of the MVEA project, while the next phase is under discussion. What was also very important was that while the companies were doing their marketing efforts for these energy access products, we also engaged in awareness raising and sensitization to increase the acceptance of clean energy products in the camp, and also to raise awareness on the need for high quality stoves and products overall. One key challenge that we're still facing and that is still ongoing is the access to finance barrier and payment challenges. We do, if you want to read a bit more about the phase one, there is a report available. You will be receiving the slides, and the link here on this slide will lead you to that report. But what is more interesting, obviously, what we're talking about today is productive use of energy and how to actually scale up that initial energy access that is evolving in the camps. Amongst households, but then also bringing this to small businesses. And in fact, Kakuma and Kalobier do have quite a vibrant market economy. There are 2,500 micro businesses active in the camps across the various villages, covering areas such as small kiosks, restaurants. There are tailors, fruit and vegetable stalls, etc. So what we did earlier this year, we conducted a business survey among these micro businesses to understand what their energy access situation is and how satisfied they are with their current energy access and what kind of products they would be looking for, interested in using to further grow their business. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Karlijn, who will take us through the key findings from this survey. Karlijn, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Susanne. So hi, everyone. So I've been involved in an analysis of the business survey conducted among 859 businesses operating in Kakuma refugee camp and Kalobier settlement, and I'll present some of the key findings. So first, we'll have a look at the results related to access, cost, and earnings. So we found that electricity access is limited among the businesses operating in the camp and settlement, as 54% uses electricity for their business. And so when we look at the type of activities and the power sources used, we could see that those businesses powering larger appliances, such as fridges and TVs, often use diesel-fueled power sources. So this includes, as Susanne spoke about, informal diesel mini-grids or standalone generators. While lighting and or phone charging, so less power-intensive activities, are primarily powered by small solar systems. In addition, 10% have more than one source of electricity, usually a small solar system for lighting and a diesel generator or informal mini-grid for larger appliances. And then on the right, you can see in the figure the average monthly expenditure on electricity per power source used. And so what you can see is that those using a generator or a diesel mini-grid reported their monthly electricity expenditures to fall within the 500 to 2,000 Kenyan shilling range, or actually above 2,000 shilling, which accounts to about $20 US. And this is due to the high monthly fixed usage fees that diesel mini-grid operators charge in the camps, and also the power intensity of large appliances. Actually, as you can see at the no expenditure bar, is that solar powered system users reported to have paid off their system and do not incur any monthly costs to use their typically small devices. The average monthly fuel expenditure of those diesel fueled power sources users, it demonstrates a willingness and an ability to pay for electricity. Then looking at the income in the other figure below, the monthly earnings of businesses with electricity access are higher for 25% of businesses that earn more than 1,000 shilling. And there's actually an even higher earnings differential of businesses earning above 5,000 shilling. So which we can attribute to the fact that they use larger appliances and so can offer additional products and services, such as cool drinks and showing of movies or football games in the camp. Smaller business experiences less benefit in terms of earnings with or without electricity. Also, we found that when comparing the female and male business owners, women are less likely to access electricity, and this can be attributed to the nature of their business, which is primarily in food preparation. So next slide, please. Thank you. So now when we look at the interest, so the demand that the business expressed, the barriers and finance, we saw that businesses express demand for larger appliances, but also small solar-based appliances. So 64% of the businesses that currently use electricity, they want to upgrade to fridges, TVs, and/or audio systems, while 85% of the businesses without access are interested in using electricity for lighting, phone charging, and cooling, as it will allow them, as they express, to be open longer, but also expand their product and service offering. Barriers that are currently preventing them from using electricity include high costs, lack of information, so where to obtain it, and access to affordable finance and payment plans. Also, we looked at the relation between using electricity and having access to financial services. And these financial services, we also included a mobile money payment, so M-Pesa, which is in Kenya the main method. And so interestingly, access to finance is not a prerequisite to use electricity, we saw, as almost 70% of all the businesses that we surveyed use financial services, but only just over half of them also access electricity, which you can also see in the figure on the bottom. So what we found in terms of electricity is that micro businesses in Kakuma, they get by without electricity access. But looking to the earnings, there are more businesses making over 5,000 shilling per month with electricity than without. So in that step change impacts earnings, you could say. So next slide, please. We also questioned those businesses involved in cooking on their cooking practices, expenditure and demand. So nearly all businesses that we surveyed that are involved in food preparation, they use a charcoal stove, a wood stove, and/or freestone open fire, or a combination of the three. So they practice fuel stacking. 72% of businesses reported to use at least a charcoal stove, making it the most popular stove type for businesses, and charcoal the most commonly used fuel for businesses. The purchase price of the stoves was on average below 1,000 Kenyan shillings, but 50% of businesses spent more than 1,000 shilling on fuel every month. We also asked the businesses if they would like to switch to a new cooking technology, and 58% of them said that they would like to switch to an improved stove, namely a charcoal stove, so an improved charcoal stove, an LPG or a bioethanol stove. And currently, high purchasing costs are preventing these businesses to switch to a new stove. And when we ask about their motivation, so why were they interested in switching of stove? As you can see on the figure on the bottom, actually, we also found that there is quite some awareness on the benefits for health and capacity and quality, related to a preference to switching to a new stove. So these findings, and these are just some of the findings, they inform several recommendations and next steps, which Susanne will present. So back to you, Susanne.
All right, thank you, Karlijn. Just very, very quickly going through my final slide here. So overall, we surveyed 859 businesses, including 137 cooking businesses. What we found was that 54% of these businesses do use electricity, and almost half, 44%, already use solar-powered systems. However, these solar-powered systems are typically being used for lighting only, and larger appliances are still being powered by diesel generators. with regard to looking into the future and helping private sector companies to come into the camp based on this information, we found that 3/4 of the businesses we surveyed actually do want to either get access to electricity if they haven't, or they would like to expand their current use of electricity. And so this was the idea of this survey, to inform that kind of decision-making process, so that we can, on the electricity side, facilitate market entry of alternative solar-powered appliances and devices. There was, for example, quite a lot of interest in cooling solutions in the camp. What is required for that is that we or the private sector companies determine the business case of these alternative solutions and of these products and market them accordingly. In parallel, we need to raise awareness on the additional usages that or additional applications that electricity can provide to the existing businesses. And that's for the business that already use electricity, but then also for those businesses that are not yet using electricity, to showcase even the benefits of just small solar systems that power basic appliances that can extend through lighting the business opening hours and therefore increase revenues. On the clean cooking side, one of the key barriers that we found here was especially the upfront cost barriers for larger stoves. And so that is also something that we would like to address going forward. We are currently working on a fridge assessment in the camp to understand what type of fridges are currently being used and what could replace the diesel solutions for these appliances. We are engaging with further companies to sign MOUs to bring on board as beneficiaries for our MBEA program. Specifically focusing on productive use technologies. And we're also about to launch a project designing a behavioral change campaign on the clean cooking side. And then last but not least, looking at addressing the cost barriers for clean cooking, hopefully also for the local businesses, is to develop a cash-based initiative for fuels together with the humanitarian agencies in the camp. Thank you very much for your patience. I realize I'm way over time here. I appreciate that we received this time. Thank you so much. And I look forward to some questions.